Pod.
Engagement pod.
Are we live?
Are we live? Oh yeah, we're live. See
It
that?
says we are there. It says we are there.
We can't leave this to chance, James.
No.
Not after last time.
What have we got? Come on.
I reckon this is streaming.
I think it might be. My LinkedIn's just, yep, there it is. It's on.
We're on.
We're on. It's working.
How good is that?
Finally.
Take 7.
Take two.
Take two.
We haven't got to not quite there yet. Thank you, Dan, for coming along again. So Dan and I sat here in this room a couple of weeks ago.
We did.
Had a good chat for about half an hour.
To ourselves.
And turns out it was all to ourselves. The streaming service didn't work so well. It didn't link to YouTube. We had nothing to show for it. So Dan, thank you for coming back.
We got plenty of free time. What's half an hour, right? That's cool.
Thanks for coming back again to have another chat. I put out on LinkedIn a few weeks back, obviously known you for a little while now, wanted to try and have a chat with people that running their own business, particular interest in those that somewhere along the journey have sold a business, which you do both of. Maybe if we start with where you're at now, what are you doing now? What does Dan Gold do now?
Right now, just a humble mortgage broking business called Long Property. And I've been in the mortgage broking industry for 5 years now. Absolutely love it. Very lucky to have just found work that I really enjoy. And, Long Property is a newer business, but it's going really well. And, just thankful to have found cool stuff that keeps us busy and we find very rewarding.
Yep. And the team? How many?
The team is just myself, Patrick and Rachel. So I've got 2 support staff. We've pretty much been working together from day one. They're excellent. And it's a nice little team effort. The mortgage broking businesses, as you probably know, James, aren't, particularly huge. Often it is just, one-man band style of business. It's not the type of operation that necessarily requires like a big infrastructure and or big brand name to support it. Often people are just coming to trusted individuals that they are willing to engage to help with their lending requirements. So even our small team of 3 people is probably on the bigger end of a typical mortgage broking business. And that's helped us to, I guess, deliver a good service and build a good client base. So
thanks. And
early days, but
so good. If we go back a bit, so you've got a bit of a story around starting businesses and getting a phone call out of the blue, and so maybe let's go back uni days. So post uni, where did you end up?
Yeah, so my career has pretty much just been in 2 parts. One is finance and one is business, and then Long Property is really just a combination of those 2, finance and business together. And I think that there's actually a lot in that. Like often when you're kind of scratching your head thinking about what's right for you or what's next, it can often just come by combining, interests and experiences that
it's probably the best
come
way to go
together.
about it.
Sure. So because those 2 previous journeys or chapters in my life weren't particularly successful. I enjoy them both and we got a lot out of it. But, I was never so I started in corporate finance, investment banking, and I was never like a gun analyst or a great investment banker. I just I think scraped in and kind of plodded along for a few years and made some excellent contacts. But it just wasn't for me, particularly at the early stage of investment banking careers. It's just purely analytical. You're behind a spreadsheet night and day. And
not like the movies,
but maybe at the more senior levels. But I loved it. Like great group of friends, and learnt so much, and really benefited from just being part of like a very slick operation. But at the end of the day, I just never felt right. I was never really good at the job, and it lasted a few years, and then moved on, and then business. My wife and I had 2 small businesses, and made some money, lost some money. Again, really enjoyed that whole chapter, but we sold a business, which is what you're alluding to, and that was successful on paper. Like, we made a bit of money out of it. We had no clue what we were doing, nor did we, I think, really love that kind of work either.
How did you get into it in the first place?
How did we get into it? I think Elise and I we met at uni, and then we were both working in investment banking together, and neither of us liked it, and we just wanted to try something different. But we probably got into it for the wrong reasons. I think, like, if you're going to start a business, you want to have a damn good idea, and you want to, I think, either have specialist knowledge or skills or insights, or at least be able to bring people into your world that have those things, to increase the likelihood of success. And I think for Elise and I, we just wanted to have a small business, but we never really had this brilliant idea or anything like that. So we were really just looking to get into a business, which is probably the wrong way to start a business. You should really have an amazing idea first, and then say, look, this is so good that we're going to, quit our jobs and do everything else. We kind of did it the reverse way. But, that, funnily enough, was the successful business.
Yeah.
It's like an online retailing business called Ladybub, which was like a daily deals site for women and kids. And it just so happened that Catch of the Day wanted to get into the exact same business. And Catch of the Day, for those of you that don't know, is one of Australia's largest online retailing businesses. And, they may have been the first daily deals site in Australia, certainly the most mainstream and popular one. And then, they wanted to start specializing in a couple of different niches, one of which was that, women and kids. And we were maybe, 9 months into our journey when they approached us and said, hey, why go it alone? Maybe you can work together with us on that. So we ended up selling a majority of stake in our business to them, but it's not some sale in the context of successful startups. We'd been literally operating for 9 months, so we made a bit of money out of that, but not big money at all. What was more exciting about it, though, was then working with them for the next 12 months and just leveraging all of their resources to really accelerate the growth of our little baby or our little vision. And it just that was exhilarating.
Yeah,
we grew very quickly.
And so did they approach you? How did that come about? How did that sale actually come about?
Yeah, so there were two parts. They invested a majority mistake in our business, and then after 12 months of us working with them, they bought the remaining shares. How did it come about? We literally just, Sunday morning woke up having making breakfast, and then we get a call from Hezi Leibovich, who is one of the co-founders of Catch of the Day, and just introduced himself. I knew who he was, but I had no relationship with him prior. And he just wanted to catch up. And then, we caught up and started talking about all this, and one thing led to another. But I think, as you do when you're just engaged with any business, you probably have, your ear on the ground with respect to who's doing what in the same vertical or industry. And I think that's how they found out about us. Yeah. And they could have easily done so they bought Ladybub. We changed the name to mumgo.com.au, and then built that business very quickly, and I'm proud to say that it still exists today, and it's one of their 5 odd businesses that's operational. Clearly it's making good money, and that's part of their wholesale to Wesfarmers, which is ridiculous. How can our little freaking daily deals site, we had nothing to do with this, by the way, disclaimer. I mean, we started it, but we are not responsible for any of its further kind of growth or success. They are, but it is kind of still cool to think that we were literally packing little onesies and milk
from your house,
from our little apartment in Port Melbourne. So good. And now, I mean, have you seen Catch of the Day's warehousing facilities? They're multi-million-dollar robotic kind of Goliath operations, and they pick and pack our little kid stuff that we started with. So that's cool. They could have easily. So prior to them approaching us, they had just received an equity check of $80 million from a private equity firm in New York called Tiger Global.
Okay.
And so they had the resources. They could have easily done Mum Go on their own, but I think one of their challenges at the time were they just needed good operators to run that business for them.
Yeah.
And they thought that by acquiring our business, really they could just get Elise and I to lend a helping hand there. So technically it was called like an acqui-hire, right? As opposed to like a full-blown acquisition. An acqui-hire. It was really just hiring good people, or they thought we were good people.
You had to start on it, so they...
Yeah. So we had like 5,000 subscribers to our little business on an email list or whatever when they took us over. And then to put it into context, 5,000 became over 250,000 within the course of about a year.
Yeah.
They cross-marketed everything that we were doing to their broader Catch of the Day audience, which was in the millions. Yeah. And then, any women that were interested in that inherently became interested in us, and we built a little community of it. So, it was it's really fun thinking back to it, and it's kind of cool to just follow its journey. But it's part of the ride.
And then after Mum Go, where did things take you after that?
Yeah, so after 12 months at Catch the Day, they, like I said, had all these resources, which meant that they we built a brand and a community, and then it was always the plan for them to basically amalgamate that into their broader operation. So instead of like when Elise and I were there, we had our own copywriters and photographers and buyers and administrative, web technicians and things like that. But so did Catch of the Day, and so did Scoop On, and so did Grocery Run and all that. So effectively, Gabby and Hezi made this call to centralize all of those functions under the one umbrella, so that the buyers for Catch of the Day could also buy products for women and kids, and so on and so forth with those other functions too. So at that point, they really didn't need us. So they bought the remaining shares. And then Elise and I we really kind of didn't know what to do. We had a bit of money. We had a lot of time. We had no business ideas, but we were young and we were driven, and we just wanted to, find what was next for us. And then, we got into our second business, which was a complete disaster. And we can talk about that if you like, although it's probably not, it's not that interesting. But yeah, that was a hospitality business. And, that was our next venture. We basically saw a concept in the US that we thought was brilliant. Yeah. We did zero market testing in Australia to actually figure out whether anyone else thought it was brilliant. And even although it was kind of a cool idea, we totally underestimated the complexity behind it. And we gave it a fair crack, and we worked our asses off. And we brought a few people along for the ride, but it just wasn't meant to be, and it didn't work. So we ended up closing the business and walking away with our tails between our legs, realizing how,
There is an interesting story though that you shared last time about who took over one of the premises.
Well, yeah. So we had it was a 2-unit hospitality kind of concept, a pizza concept, and thankfully, we found and negotiated very strong leases. So Messina Gelato ended up buying our business, but really they were just buying the lease of 2 great shops on Chapel Street and Swan Street in Richmond. And their 2 stores, their flagship stores in Melbourne are where we used to operate. Yeah. So.
And looking forward, so you've got something I didn't touch on last time, and after you left, I had questions in my own head, so I'll ask you now. Yeah. You've written a book.
Yeah.
How do you write a book?
So
I go and write it, but how do you actually get it printed?
Yeah, I learned a lot through that process.
How does that happen?
So, I guess there are lots of different avenues. If you're a good writer, which I'm not, you can probably get a proper book deal and like legit publication. But anyone can actually just write a self-published book, and that's the avenue that I went down. Pros and cons. Yeah. I mean, I think everyone approaches writing books in totally different ways. For me, it was never like, hey, let's make a whole bunch of money off book sales. Definitely not. But it was like, wow, I've learned so much over my little journey. I would love to document some of this stuff. I did. And then, I just thought that by writing a book about business and real estate, I might be able to, I guess, maybe develop some more credibility in this space about being somebody that's subject matter expert and credible and trustworthy in that domain. So it was actually quite a painful process. I found writing it.
How long do you reckon it took you to write it?
Well, I'd been writing a blog for several years prior.
True. Yeah.
So I leveraged a lot of the content from that.
Yeah.
But even still, it would have taken near a year to write the book.
Yeah.
However, I was working full-time job and whatnot. So it's just like in the mornings and in the evenings that I'd kind of come away and do that.
Yeah.
But, obviously if you devote time to it, it could take shorter. But the cool thing about it is I teamed up with this group called Tableau. If anyone's interested in self-publishing, check out tableau.com. No, tableau.io, I think, is their URL. But they're a really cool, legit Australian techie kind of startup.
Yeah.
And their technology allows this. I've written this book called Long Property. Okay. And, like I said, it's just self-published. It's available on Amazon.com and all the other web platforms. However, if you go into like Barnes and Noble in the US and say, I would like a copy of Long Property by Dan Gold, do you have that in stock? They would look it up on their computer and they would say, oh, we don't have any copies currently in stock, but we can, have it here for you within 48 hours or something. This is somebody in the US doing that. And this is a small, shitty little, publication that I wrote.
Yeah.
But that's what Tableau enables. So Tableau enables any, self-published author to have their books available in physical retail outlets globally via their platform. How cool is that?
So what they'd order it at Barnes & Noble and then it gets printed on demand or something?
Exactly. It gets printed on demand at one of, the thousands of different warehouses that are capable of like actually, doing this form of printing and logistics. And then, it rocks up at the Barnes & Noble store in the US and that person can collect a copy. Now, in my case, it's actually kind of irrelevant because Long Property would not have any relevance to an international audience. And therefore, no one would find my material particularly helpful or interesting there. But for anyone else that might be interested in like telling their story or writing a book that has international appeal, definitely check out tableau.io. Because, I was just blown away. How cool is that?
That is.
You could never have done that
a
year or two ago. No. And I think from what I understand, they're like the first company that's ever done this in the world.
Okay.
And now it's going to become like commonplace. And they're amazing guys, by the way. Ash, if you're watching, thanks for all your help. And I hope the business is going well.
Yeah. And look,
I've referred a few people to Tableau.
You have?
As you can see, I'm pretty passionate about it.
I'll check out the website afterwards.
But it's also just like quite a fulfilling, like, achievement, just being able to say, I now have a book,
just to get all that stuff out.
I've hardly read any books, let alone written a book. No.
Look, I know you got to run, so last question for you. If we're sitting here,
I've got 15 minutes.
We're sitting here in 3 years. We're sitting here in 3 years. What do you want to have happened professionally, personally, for that to have been a good 3 years?
That's a good question. My views on all this have changed a lot over the years. Yeah. So had you asked the young green Dan, like all of that, I would have told you, take over the world and, biggest business in the, all that kind of stuff. But, then you get older and you have kids and you put things into perspective. And I just hope that in 3 years' time, we're still able to do what we're currently doing, which is just good work that we're really proud of, that we enjoy, and that we've managed to maintain, if not strengthen, our reputation in the mortgage industry for just being really good operators that are, setting a new benchmark for service excellence and whatnot in the industry, which is very much my kind of goal.
So not looking to take over the world anymore. Just
no, not at all.
Maintain your solid business and keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah, because love the work. I find it very fulfilling. people are just so thankful. I mean, you would get this. People are so thankful for the work we do. Like, we're just doing our jobs.
Yeah.
But
It's the small things, isn't it?
Yeah.
You would think it's small, but for someone else, it's...
Well, we're just doing our job, and they're like, oh my
massive.
God, Dan,
Yeah.
Paddy, Rates, thank you so much for helping us buy this home, or for, like, you know, rearranging all of our lending or whatnot. And we're like, no, that's cool. Like, we get paid to do this from the banks, you know? But it's a signal of how impactful some of the work that we do can be on people's lives. And that was always my thing in investment banking. It was like, it's services driven, and I've always very much had this kind of service driven mindset. I enjoy kind of helping people via a service driven style of work.
Yeah.
But with mortgage broking, it's real people, real mums and dads, you know, and their personal lives, as opposed to corporate finance, which is large companies and, you know,
CFO
corporate balance sheets. Yeah, it's just like what you're doing there is part of a much bigger system that, you know, pros and cons. Like, it's exhilarating when you're doing a deal that's very large and written up in the AFR. But I just, you know, I feel like I've got a stronger sense of purpose now just doing this, given the interpersonal relationships that we can deal with clients and helping them with their personal financial affairs. That seems to be, you know, relevant for them and just matches our little skill set. So, but yeah, it's also just about, I think, patience. Like, I'm only 35. I hope to be working for at least another 30 or 40 years. You don't have to take over the world in 3, you know, like, I hope I'm still, like, paying bills and like, you know, just growing a respectable business in that length of time. But you know, if you're doing what you do, then chances are if you're doing things that you enjoy doing and you've got strong work ethic, I suppose that, you know, the likelihood of you being able to do well is higher. And then if you do well for long enough, then bigger opportunities can start presenting themselves. And who knows, maybe like when the kids are a bit older and there's less, you know, there's less to be part of there, then there's other angles that we could explore. Yeah. But yeah, for now, just, you know, keeping out of trouble, doing our thing and enjoying it.
Okay.
How about you? What do you want to be doing in 2 years?
Much the same, really.
Yeah, I think that's why we've always connected. Kind of, like, we share that same kind of idea with this work.
Taking over the world initially. I think everyone comes out of uni.
Yeah, that's right. Until you realize how ridiculously impossible it is.
How hard it is to get a job in the first place.
And also, like, why do you want to take over the world? Yeah. Like, what's the real driver there? Is it because you think that'll make you look good in front of your friends? Yeah. Do you want that life?
Yeah.
And if you're doing it without doing work that actually interests you, is it even enjoyable? Like, we just, I think at the end of the day, the real motivator here should just be, you know, do stuff that makes you happy, because, like, how much time do we spend working? Yeah. Like, if it's not enjoyable, what's the freaking point?
You're going to spend most of your life there. You've got to enjoy it.
Yeah. I think you just need to, like, earn enough so that you're paying the bills and the family's well looked after. Beyond that, I think it's all about just enjoying it. And then you're probably more likely to do well out of it anyway.
You will.
You know?
And if you take that mentality, if you've got 30 years ahead of you, not 3, it's changes your mindset, certainly. Okay.
Can I keep interviewing you?
Yeah.
You're gonna flip the tables?
Maybe we'll do that another time. All right. Thanks, Dan. Thanks for coming along.
Thank you.
We might leave it there. Cheers.
Cheers. Oh, we forgot to answer all the audience